Okay. Hello? All right. So, wow, wasn't that amazing what we heard from Hartmut? Those of you who are maybe of a younger generation may not know that he was the center of the design voice in the world, and there was no one like him. And when we think about, let's think about Hartmut. And I'm gonna embarrass you, but most people think that Johnny Ive created Apple, but if you look at all of the work that Hartmut led from Frage, most of the DNA of everything was Hartmut's vision for computing, and I think Johnny did a great implementation of those systems. But if you look at the bones of Apple, they all point to this man over here. So, history is hard to rewrite. Maybe if Hartmut were in the commercials with his German accent, but Johnny had the British accent, so maybe timing was wrong, but you never know. But I want to note that, and something Hartmut said that's so important, is that the idea of education is terribly broken. Because I think that his point about how, again, it was the translation is so incredible. So it was amazing to listen to you, because when he said the thing about how, the professors are creating great wealth, and the students are the taxpayers, I can't tell you how much I appreciated you saying that, because I was the president of an art school where I saw that all the time. It is why I am kind of hated by these people. That is a very important thing to note, because the problem with education today is that people in education feel too important about themselves. Same with corporations too, by the way. In companies, the same. The higher you get, the less smart you get, or maybe the smarter you get, I'm not sure. It makes it hard for junior voices to have a chance. I'll never forget when I was much younger at MIT. I remembered I didn't understand all the politics, and it was so confusing to me. And then I was trying to do this one thing, and then there was a dean of something who pulled me aside, and he said, it's very simple, son. Just wait till they all die. And I was like, I don't know if they're going to die. They're living quite long. So that's why I left the academy to switch to industry, to venture capital, to all the things that Hartmut's describing as the real world. And the real world, of course, has problems. But I think the academy has very long-standing problems. And so I'm really glad that for the young people who showed up here and the young design people like here, this person is the person who left Germany to create the design industry, and there's lots to learn about that. Because it turns out that no one likes you at home until you succeed, which is a hard thing. So I am in the space of artificial intelligence. You may have heard of it, but you didn't care about it last year. No, it's embarrassing. Everyone who was in AI, no, I'm machine learning. I'm deep learning. AI, no, I don't do AI. But this year, I do AI. There was a big developer conference at Microsoft last month, and there are little trays of badges, little badges to put on your big badge, little pins, little metal pins. There's a tray of it's like an 8x4 tray in a developer, cloud, whatever, and there's an AI pin. The AI pin went away in 1 hour. But last year, no, it's embarrassing. And so what I want to say is that Kate Crawford, who's speaking after me, is the expert on AI and the implications of it in the social sphere. She's been doing this probably as long as Hartmut has been doing design, proportionally speaking. So I would just suggest you pay attention to her more than me. All I have to tell you is that this kind of AI is different from the AI of last year. And if you cannot break that mental model, you will fall behind. One of my favorite phrases from Eric Shinseki, he's a general. He's a 4-star general in the US military. And his phrase is, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. So think about that for a second. And so AI, this new kind of AI, if you don't understand it, and if you simply fear it, you're just going to fall behind. Not saying to be just a pure techno-optimist, of course, because critical thinking is a core idea in design and in the liberal arts in general. So this new kind of technology needs more critical thinking. And, ooh, I got some applause. I was going to vote for Hartmut. And a simple way to frame it is something I discovered roughly 8 years ago. I was at a very fancy event in France, and I was learning about all kinds of stuff about France. It was a cognac thing. It was in cognac. I was like, wow, this is really amazing. I didn't, I'm American. I'm the bad kind of American in that I have very little cultural understanding of Europe. I apologize. I'm learning still. I'd learned that Frankfurt's an amazing place. It's such an amazing place, right? So I learned in France about bread, and I know you have good bread here. I know that. This is tough for me to say French. I know you don't like that probably, but I have to tell you that in the United States, French bread is like German bread. My daughter's a bread maker, so she knows all about your bread. So she's very respectful of German bread, just very clear. But for me, French bread growing up was the alternative to American bread, which doesn't taste like bread. It's white and has like a texture to it, like a sponge, and it has carbohydrates. But French bread, to me, was always, I thought there's like one kind of French bread, like the baguette. And then a French person said to me, of course, no, you stupid American. No, that's not correct. There's two kinds of baguettes. It depends upon the yeast. One kind of yeast is synthetic yeast, and the other kind of yeast is natural yeast. There's a pain à levain and à levure, apparently. And the levain is more the natural yeast. In the United States, we would call that sourdough. It smells kind of sour. That's a natural yeast. The synthetic yeast smells like bread we're used to in America. Like, oh, it smells like bread. It doesn't smell sour or anything like that. To me, this was a revelation because they look the same. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's two breads in every boulangerie? Like, why are there two breads? It's because some people prefer the natural yeast. Some people prefer the synthetic yeast. So to me, I found that everything we are concerned about artificial intelligence can be summed up with that. Because you remember, there was a time when you're on the phone and this is a computer, right? You can smell it. Yeah, I smell it. And at the time when this is a human, this is a human. There was a time where that was very easy to do. But now, in this new year, it's a little harder. It's like, you should smell it. I don't know. Is it, you cannot tell. So I think that has what's occurred as of this new AI. It's very hard to smell the difference. And so all the critical thinking we have has to be on this question, what happens if you cannot smell the difference in the bread? And so I'm very happy to be working at Microsoft because I'm a complete student, because every day it keeps changing. It's changing so quickly that I'm I'm always shocked every day I wake up. There's something new about it. And what's hard about it is that it is completely invisible. That's very important to note. It is not something you can see. It is completely invisible, and it's more complex and technically more powerful than we could ever imagine anything invisible. Do you know, in German, did you ever watch Stranger Things? Stranger Things? Yeah, Stranger Things, yeah. It was a kind of cool TV show, kind of retro on Netflix. Are we Stranger Things? Stranger Things is okay? Yeah, maybe it's a different name probably here too. But in Stranger Things, there's this thing called the upside down world. It's an invisible world where it's fantastic, it's like amazing, it's magnitude, there's all kind of powers. It's important to think of this other world as the upside down world. It doesn't obey physics. It doesn't obey any way you think. This upside down world is now everywhere. And so what's important to note is to understand it, because you will not be able to smell the difference. So I want to give you one piece of knowledge that's useful, because otherwise you'll all melt in this time we're together, and you have to listen, okay? So everyone, make your fingers like this. Fingers like this? Okay. Everything you need to know about the new artificial intelligence is in this thing. This is scissors, right? You're cutting a piece of paper. Cut, right? You're cutting a paper. So you mentioned Herbert Simon. Herbert Simon was famous in design, famous in business. He created the field of behavioral economics, and also famous in artificial intelligence. And Herbert Simon has something called Simon's scissors. And Simon's scissors is the idea that human intelligence is a combination of two blades of a scissors. One blade is cognition, the thinking part, the blade, and the other is context, your environment. When the two rub together, it creates the illusion of intelligence. For instance, someone with amnesia has cognition but is missing context. Or a rich person with all the books in the world has lots of context but maybe very low cognition, right? They can try very hard to be intelligent. It's a combination of the two blades. What happened last year is a strange thing happened. A cognition blade that was good enough arrived. There was no such blade until last year. And with this blade, if you rub context against it, it produces something extraordinary that we have never seen before. Until this moment, think of machine learning like making needles out of iron ore. You collect the data, you melt the iron ore, you have a factory for it, data factory, you hammer it, you take 7 months to make the perfect little knife that does one thing. It can identify a cat in a forest with 72% likelihood. Your boss says, can it identify dogs? No, boss. It'll take 7 more months. That's the old machine learning. But that same machine learning applied to a large corpus of information produced this unusual blade that has general capability. And rub it against intelligence, rub against context, it produces energy. This blade did not exist until, it was a very tiny blade, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger since 2012. That blade is now here, and it's available to everyone who's understanding it. It is an extremely important time to not be afraid of it, because if you are, you will not try to understand it. That said, you have to have critical thinking. That is why you have to listen to Kate, because she has been bringing critical thinking to the technology world as long as Hartmut has been doing his thing with design. All right, thank you, everyone.